Listen carefully. This is for the man who is ready. There is an identity within you that must be executed, not in flesh, but in spirit. A self that is addicted to approval, enslaved by distraction, comfortable with good enough, and negotiating with its own mediocrity. This identity is a parasite on your future. If you do not execute it, it will execute your dreams. The great failure is not in falling short. It is in the silent surrender to almost. It is the acceptance of being above average in a world begging for your exceptional. Evolution is not a matter of chance. It is not a passive event. Evolution is a duty. It does not occur when conditions are perfect. It occurs when you command it. You must force yourself to transcend the man you've been, because that former self, constructed in survival, molded by insecurity, validated by your past, is not welcome in your future. It is not enough to visualize a grander life. You must become the man capable of commanding it. And that becoming is a deliberate, violent process. It demands sacrifice. It demands friction. It demands a daily war against the parts of you that choose convenience over conquest. The man you are is not the man who will lead you to your definite chief aim. That version of you, hesitant, scattered, pleasers, must be dismantled. His rituals must be incinerated. His justifications must be exposed. His narrative must be erased. Do you desire a new existence? Then you must release your addiction to the old identity. This metamorphosis will not feel like an upgrade. It will feel like surgery. But do not fear the incision. That pain is the sound of your ceilings cracking. It is the death rattle of your former limitations. Let it rattle, let it burn, let it dissolve. Your higher self, potent, focused, fearless, is observing, waiting to erupt the moment you stop negotiating with your weaker form. The old you hits snooze. The new you attacks the dawn. The old you delegates blame. The new you claims sovereignty. The old you numbs with noise. The new you seeks clarity in silence. You will never grasp your potential while dragging the ghost of your past self. You must bury it. And this burial is not a one-time event. It is a daily ritual. It happens every time you choose persistence over impulse, every time you move when motivation is absent, every time you labor without the promise of praise. Growth is not harvested in comfort. It is not found in fleeting inspiration. Growth is mined in the resistance, in the relentless friction between who you are and who you are ordained to become. Stop begging for easy. Easy is a liar. Easy is the anesthetic of ambition. Instead, demand truth, demand difficulty, demand the pressure that forges titanium character. Here is what the masses will never comprehend. Your future self, the man of power, peace, and profound purpose, is already within you, but he is buried beneath the rubble of your current routines. He is suffocating under your excuses. He is screaming from behind your screens, and only you can liberate him. Not with affirmations, not with vision boards, but with daily, disciplined action. You cannot ascend while pledging loyalty to who you've been. That allegiance must be severed. That version of you, the settler, the hider, the procrastinator, must be betrayed. Yes, betrayed, for he has betrayed your destiny long enough. If you intend to rise, you must declare war on your lower nature. You must make your old habits feel foreign, your old excuses sound pathetic, your old patterns feel intolerable. Stop trying to reform that old identity. He is beyond repair. He was never engineered for the peaks you are destined to scale. You must replace him, not with wishful thinking, not with vague hope, but with brutal, systematic, intentional evolution.
I tell you this not to spark a temporary feeling. I tell you this because it is the law. Because mediocrity exerts a gravitational pull, and if you do not thrust against it with everything in your being, it will reclaim you. Understand this. Transformation will cost you your comfort, your familiar pains, your lazy narratives, but remaining the same will cost you everything. Your mission, your legacy, your soul. Stop awaiting the right time. It is a mirage. The only right time is the time you decree. Decide now that you are finished negotiating with your limitations. Decide now that your former self no longer has a seat at the table. Decide now that your life will be dictated not by fleeting emotion, but by unbreakable principle.
Evolution does not care about your feelings. It responds to a single currency, action. You will feel exhausted, act anyway. You will feel terror, advance anyway. You will feel uncertain, build anyway. The only way to silence fear is to outgrow it. The only way to obliterate doubt is to suffocate it with evidence. The only way to execute the old you is to starve him of indulgence and feed him relentless, uncompromising discipline. See, the old you was an accident, assembled by unchallenged habits, inherited beliefs, and unprocessed history. But the new you? He will be a masterpiece of design. He will not emerge from the couch. He will be forged in the fire of your discomfort, tempered in solitude, sharpened on the grindstone of repetition. He will rise not because fate favored him, but because you were willing. Willing to endure the hard path, willing to be misunderstood, willing to demand more of yourself than anyone ever has. This is the path. The greats outgrow their history. They outlast their fragility. They outdiscipline their distractions. They shed their skin to reveal something formidable, something unrecognizable. This is not self-help. This is self-execution, and it begins with a decree. I will no longer reside in the ghost town of my former life, because every day you delay, the old you scores a victory. Every time you rationalize laziness, his chains tighten. Every time you seek cushion, you grant him another lease on life. Enough. The world has no need for another man haunted by his past. The world needs you, the actualized you, the focused, fiery, truth-speaking, risk-embracing you, who no longer waits for an invitation because he has already crowned himself. The man who no longer whispers his worth, but declares it without apology. He is not built in a day, but he is built every day. One disciplined decision at a time, one moment of necessary friction at a time. Brick by brick, you rise from the ashes of your former identity, from the wreckage of limiting beliefs, from the prison of your familiar. You were never meant to plateau. You were engineered for continuous ascent. And this ascent is not a suggestion. It is urgent. You either evolve or you erode. You either ascend or you decay. You either execute the old you or you become his permanent tomb. So choose now, not when, now. For if you do not outgrow your current life, it will become your coffin. And you were not born to be buried in mediocrity. You were born to construct a legacy. But the foundation must be new, the man must be new, the standards must be new, the commitment must be absolute. Nothing less has ever built anything of consequence. Yes, this will be arduous, but hear this. Arduous is the only path to altitude. Strength is forged in struggle. Mastery is born from relentless repetition. Greatness is granted to the man who is willing to bury his former self without eulogy, the man who forces himself every single day to outgrow the man he was yesterday. And that man is you.
The man who waits for transformation to happen to him will wait for eternity. Transformation is not received, it is seized. You do not await evolution, you force it through repetition, through discomfort, through the daily demolition of every thought, behavior, and alliance that does not serve your major definite purpose.
It will feel alien because you are walking away from the identity that once masqueraded as safety. But safety is not the objective. Sovereignty is. You must begin to interrogate everything the old you considered normal. For normal is the enemy. Normal is the cage. Normal is the cemetery of possibility. The version of you that seeks the path of least resistance, that scrolls instead of strategizes, that complains instead of creates, he is not your companion. He is your captor. The moment you see him with crystal clarity is the moment you reclaim your throne. You must cultivate an intolerance for your own excuses, an allergic reaction to your old cycles, a deep, visceral disgust for stagnation, so potent that the thought of staying the same becomes more painful than the pain of growth. That is the tipping point, when you cease desiring change and begin demanding it. You do not possess the luxury of time. You do not have the privilege of delay, for while you hesitate, your potential languishes in a cell, untested, untapped, unlived. Break it out, with action, with intensity, with an unshakable daily standard that thunders, "What I tolerated yesterday is unacceptable today." Who you were may have delivered you to this crossroads, but who you must become is non-negotiable if you intend to cross it. Do not merely adjust your habits, overhaul your identity. Stop calling yourself a man with potential. That is a transient, fragile title. Become the man of execution, the man who finishes, the man who does not dream of transformation, he embodies it. Filter every single action through this lens. Does this align with the man I'm becoming, or does it comfort the man I'm outgrowing? Every choice, every word, every silent hour, it must pass through this filter. For once you decide to become the next level version of yourself, nothing is casual anymore. Your diet, your calendar, your thoughts, your circle, all of it must support the vision. All of it must fuel the ascent. You must guard that vision as a lion guards his pride, for doubt will come, distraction will roar, the siren song to revert will scream for your attention. Ignore it. When it whispers just this once, respond, "Not anymore." When it says, "You've done enough," ask, "Enough for whom? The man I was, or the man I am destined to be?" You must understand, the old you does not depart peacefully. He claws, he bargains, he weaves elegant justifications, and if you entertain him for a single moment, you resuscitate your own limitations. This is why you must not negotiate. Starve him, ignore him, replace him with new rituals, new beliefs, new standards so potent they choke the weakness you once called comfortable. You do not need more information. You need total immersion, a radical, complete immersion into the life you were designed to lead. Consume what strengthens you. Listen to what sharpens you. Surround yourself only with those who reflect your greatness, not your excuses. Audit your circle, for evolution will cause you to outgrow people. This is not betrayal, it is alignment. Some will label your change arrogance. Let them. They are addicted to the version of you that made them comfortable. But you did not come this far to remain small for their approval. You came to become fire. And fire does not ask for permission to burn away what cannot journey with it. You were never meant to fit in. You were meant to lead.
And leadership requires that you offend your past, that you disrupt your patterns, that you execute every version of yourself built to survive so you can finally thrive. Yes, execute him, the lethargic you, the people-pleasing you, the indecisive you, the doubtful you. They were assembled from past pain, past conditioning, past compromise. They are not you. They are who you learned to be. And what is learned can be unlearned, but only through relentless, unwavering action. Do not try to heal the old version. That is no longer your mission. Your mission is to replace him with someone stronger, someone wiser, someone who greets the dawn with purpose and retires with undeniable progress. Your mission is to show up for your future self as if your legacy depends on it, because it does. Let me tell you the truth most lack the courage to speak. Success is not gentle, it is not sentimental, it makes no exceptions for your moods. Success demands that you abandon every belief that coddles your weakness. The man who waits to feel ready will fossilize, but the man who moves forward despite the tremor in his hands, he is the man who forges an unshakable legacy. He is the man who operates not on motivation, but on non-negotiable standards. He is the man who no longer asks, "Can I?" but who expects to, because he lives in a manner that makes greatness inevitable. You must become that man. And becoming him is a violent, glorious process. It will require that you outwork, outthink, and outlast the version of you that settles. But hear this clearly. It is possible, not because you are special, but because you are willing. Willing to pay the price in solitude, willing to walk the unbeaten path when required, willing to demand excellence even when the world is asleep. For that is where your evolution transpires, not in the spotlight, but in the disciplined dark, not when you feel inspired, but when you act regardless, not when the crowd applauds, but when you honor yourself for doing what was necessary. If you persist long enough, the man who once had potential becomes the man who fulfills it, because you kept the promise to outgrow the man who feared judgment, the man who diminished himself to be accepted, the man who chose comfort to avoid conflict. You buried him, and in his place you have built someone undeniable, someone whose very life is testament that discipline is divine. Someone whose habits proclaim, "I was not born to blend in, I was born to break cycles." For here is the supreme truth. The most powerful version of you has always existed within. He is not waiting for luck, not for a savior. He is waiting for you to finally cease apologizing for your hunger. This entire journey is not about becoming someone else. It is about removing everything that is not you.
The fear? Not you. The excuses? Not you. The complacency? Not you. These are hand-me-down behaviors from a former self ignorant of his own power. But now, you know. And when you know, you can never truly go back. You may falter, you may stumble, but you do not retreat. For you have seen too much, felt too much, evolved too much. There is no back. There is only forward. There is only up. So rise one more time, one more level, one more iteration, and this time decree that this version of you, the focused one, the bold one, the one who forces his own growth, this one stays. There is no greater war than the civil war between who you were and who you are destined to be. This war is not fought in a single battle. It is fought every morning, in every decision, in every act of resistance against the voice that pleads for you to stay the same. But let me tell you what the comfortable crowd will not. Staying the same is suffering, a slow, silent, respectable suffering. The man who refuses to grow is not avoiding pain. He is merely choosing a more protracted, subtle agony.
Stagnation feels safe until you awake one day, buried in the mediocrity of your own making, haunted by the ghost of the man you could have been. That is why you must be ruthless with your evolution. Do not just outgrow the old you, bury him beneath a mountain of discipline. Erect a new standard so towering he could never hope to climb back. You must understand the process of becoming unrecognizable is not poetic, it is not romantic, it is violent, and it must be. If you are to be reborn, the old must be burned. This means no more negotiations with your patterns, no more conversations with doubt, no more romanticizing your distractions, justifying your inaction, or excusing your softness. You are either ascending or rotting. You are either leading yourself with ruthless focus or following your impulses into decay. If you crave true freedom, the kind that few ever taste, know that it flows only through the channel of discipline. It arrives only when your standards are so exalted that your old self gasps for air in their presence. He cannot survive in your new environment, for your new environment is engineered for performance, for power, for purpose, for persistence. Your old identity is allergic to that level of expectation. Let him suffocate. Let the weak man die, the one who said tomorrow, the one who waited for inspiration, the one who repeated the same year for a decade and called it life. He was never going to lead you to your promised land. He was a placeholder, a phantom of the man you were meant to be. But now you lead. You are no longer a passenger in your own story. You have seized the wheel. And with that sovereignty comes a sacred responsibility to execute, to endure, to evolve without seeking permission. You do not need consensus, you need conviction. For a man with conviction does not require motivation. His life moves in precise alignment with his decisions. Every action, every step, every breath is measured against one question. Does this serve the man I am becoming? If yes, it stays. If no, it is executed. This is how you grow. You subtract, you strip, you sever until only truth remains, until only strength remains. And in that purified space, the new you emerges, not merely more powerful, but unshakable. For when you have executed every excuse, every weak identity, every self-limiting belief, what remains is a man who cannot be broken, a man whose results are not accidental, they are engineered, a man who does not hope for success, he expects it because he lives in a manner that demands it. And that expectation, it rewires your reality, it sculpts your posture, your voice, your very presence. People will feel it. They may not decipher what has changed, but they will know something fundamental has shifted. You will no longer carry the corpse of who you used to be. You will walk in the authority of who you chose to become. In that moment, you no longer speak to life as a beggar. You speak as an architect. You declare, this is my standard, this is my path, this is my legacy. And anything, any habit, any relationship, any thought that does not align with that decree will not survive. Yes, there will be a grief, a mourning for the man you were, the one who was liked, who fit in, who was predictable. But you must mourn him swiftly, for he was the anchor keeping you in average waters, and you were not built for average. You were built to embody fire, to command your life as a general commands his campaign, with clarity, with presence, with intentional violence against anything that threatens the mission.
And what is the mission? To become the man no one believed you could be, especially the man you used to be. That is your duty now. Not to outshine others, not to prove doubters wrong, but to prove your highest self right. He is watching. He is waiting. He is whispering, don't stop, don't slip, don't settle. For he knows the stakes. He knows what occurs if you slow, if you soften, if you forget your why. The old version wins. And if he wins, you lose everything. That is the battle. That is the war. And that is why you must go further than you ever have. You must push through fatigue with fury. You must rise through pain with precision. You must move through fear with faith. For faith is not merely spiritual. Faith is strategic. It is the unshakable belief that if you keep showing up, keep enforcing discipline, keep executing what no longer belongs, then the life you seek will be forced to manifest. It will not be given. It will not be gifted. It will be dragged into existence by the man who outgrew every weaker version of himself and refused to glance back. That is you. The man who stopped waiting for growth and chose to force it. The man who bled out his excuses and stood formidable in the silence they left behind. The man who mastered his impulses, his schedule, his mind, until success became not a hope, but a prediction. Real transformation is not a singular moment. It is a cascade of moments where you chose courage over comfort, clarity over confusion, creation over convenience. And that choice, repeated, becomes your identity. So do not halt now, not when you are this close. The final test is always the most ferocious. Your old self will scream its last. Your fatigue will amplify. The pressure will intensify. But that is not a signal to quit. It is a sign. It means the old you is on life support. One more push, one more refusal to yield, one more hour of action without an audience, without applause, without approval, and he is gone. You will have replaced him. Not with a man who has all the answers, but with a man who refuses to stop pursuing them. That man is unstoppable. That man is inevitable. That man is you. Now, as you advance, understand this. There is no finish line. There is no final version. Outgrowing the old you is not a phase. It is a lifestyle. It is a daily execution and a daily resurrection. It is a relentless vow to never retreat, never repeat, never recycle who you've already been. It is a decree that thunders, I will never again be caught living as a shadow of my own potential. This vow is not emotional. It is structural. It is built into your schedule, your habits, your non-negotiables, and it pays dividends in a currency few possess. Peace, power, poise. You walk taller. You speak clearer. You lead stronger because you know you earned it. You earned it in sweat. You earned it in silence. You earned it in solitude. You earned it by forcing yourself to outgrow what was safe, what was soft, what was familiar. Now you no longer merely resemble the man you were. You don't just have better habits or a stronger mind. You have become someone else entirely. And that someone, he does not chase success. He attracts it, because he has become success in motion. The war is daily. The execution is perpetual. The evolution is non-negotiable. Now go. Build. Become. The world is waiting for the man you've decided to be.